This DCAMU Rewind series that I've been doing for a few months is almost over. We're at the very, very end almost. The second to last film in this shared universe, the DC animated movie universe, is Wonder Woman Bloodlines, directed by Sam Liu and Justin Copeland, focusing on Wonder Woman and the family of characters that make up her world. It's interesting to me that they waited till almost the end to do a Wonder Woman story, considering how important of a character she is. But when we look back at this DCAMU, perhaps we'll kind of notice that they focus too much on Batman, because there were like 4 or 5 Batman movies in a row, it felt. And obviously we know why Batman's more popular, but Wonder Woman's still like a pillar of the Justice League, and she gets her movie near the end. Now, this film does star Rosario Dawson reprising her role as Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, but we have the introduction of Steve Trevor into the DCAMU, played by Jeffrey Donovan. Also rounding out the voice cast is Adrienne C. Moore, Courtney Taylor, and, if you want to talk about nostalgia, Michael Dorn. Yes, the same Michael Dorn that played Worf on Star Trek. He's here, and so is Cree Summer, who I remember from a sitcom back in the 90s called A Different World. I don't know if you guys remember A Different World. It was supposed to be a spin-off to The Cosby Show, but then after the first season, the main actress got pregnant, Lisa Bonet, and they reworked the entire show. It's something that is pretty rare and kind of unique and a cool story, but you're not here to hear me talk about sitcoms. We're talking about Wonder Woman Bloodlines. Now, the thing that struck me most about this movie watching it is two things. First of all, production-wise, the music by Frederick Wideman, really great music, great score for this film. Got to put that over. The animation, although it did fit with the remaining movies in the DCAMU, it looked a bit off. There were some specific moments and some frames that did not look so good. I watched it on HBO Max, and I was really surprised that there were just some animation cuts that were just below average. And I'm not really sure why that is. Now, story-wise, it starts off pretty cool. Introduced to Steve Trevor and his arrival on Themyscira, which actually, this prologue, like the first section of this movie, takes place during the events of Justice League War, when Darkseid came to Earth with the Parademons. So it starts earlier in the DCAMU and then picks up closer to the present. This movie, while it does have a focus on Wonder Woman-centric characters like Steve Trevor, Dr. Cyber, Dr. Poison, and even Cheetah, they all appear here. It's not so much a Wonder Woman story as much as it's a story about Silver Swan. This is really the Silver Swan story. She is the most interesting character in this whole movie, and the character that we most care about, or at least the one that I cared most about as I'm watching it. She has like an arc. We know that Diana, like we know what Diana's about. We know what her motivations are. We know the way she feels about Steve Trevor. We know her history. And if you don't know, they do explain it pretty well here. But to me, Vanessa, that was the character that really stood out to me as the one that I cared most about. I mean, there's some pretty cool fight scenes. There's an arc with this character. There's actually a fight with Wonder Woman and Silver Swan in like the skies, or like, you know, on top of a building that I thought was pretty cool, like high up. That was probably my favorite fight in the movie. But her character and the story behind it really focuses on the aspect of choice. And, you know, it's been done before in movies, you know, a character has a misunderstanding or a tragedy happen to them, and it kind of shapes their world and shapes their opinion on how they should treat others, and they have to be brought back down to reality. I also liked a lot what they did with the villains here. Every villain had a role to play. Dr. Cyber, Dr. Poison, the ultimate villain Medusa, which was the real villain of the story. Cheetah was a bit weird in this one. I like Villainy Inc., don't get me wrong, but Cheetah, I don't know, she didn't really stick out to me as being that good in this movie. Not as bad as maybe Wonder Woman 84, but man, I don't know, this one just, she was like the least interesting. And normally I wouldn't say that, but that's how I feel. Now, something else they did here that was a bit different is that they had a mid-credit scene that has kind of an interesting reveal with, who the mastermind is behind Villainy Inc. But interestingly enough, it wasn't that much of a teaser. I mean, I guess it was. I haven't seen the last movie yet, but it didn't feel like it was that much of a teaser for another film as much as an important plot point that's part of the main story. So with this movie, if somebody's watching it and they turn it off at the beginning of the credits and they don't wait till the mid-credit scene, they're going to miss something that could be really, really important for figuring out how everything works. But the movie does have an arc for Diana, but it's not really so much a character arc necessarily. It's more so an arc about how she treats her past, specifically her home and her, I guess, ascension into becoming the champion of the Mascara and earning it by being a hero. It also, this movie also like introduces the concept of her getting her name Wonder Woman. Like she's called Diana for most of the film, but in the movie they refer to her as Wonder Woman in universe. And this movie explains how she got her name. I'm just a bit confused because I'm not exactly sure where this movie takes place. I know it starts during Justice League War, but does it end before then? Is it like before the last one? I'm not really sure on that. Probably gonna look that up later and see what comes up. The movie should have actually told us that though. So bottom line, I liked watching it, but it's not one that I would consider truly memorable and not one of my favorites. Rosario Dawson did fine playing Diana. I mean, she's fine as an actress. Everybody did their part, but I feel like it's just not a upper tier DCAMU film. Like of all these movies we've seen, this one's kind of more towards the middle. It's not too great. It's not bad. It's just right in the middle. So if somebody tells me, I didn't like this movie, I can understand that. Or if somebody says, you know what, I did like this movie a lot, I get it. You know what I mean? I don't know if anyone's going to say it's their favorite of the DCAMU, unless they're a huge, like, massive Wonder Woman fan, then I would understand. But, to me, it just felt very, very much like they were kind of building towards the finale and not really focusing, not so much, let me reiterate, not building towards the finale, but almost like we're at the finish line. Before we end it with the big finale, let's just put this out because it's Wonder Woman and capitalize on the name. And also, it might be a small thing, but the box art does not fit with the film at all. I thought that was a bit weird. But like I said, thumbs in the middle movie, not the best, not the worst, right there. Not too important if you ask me. You could probably skip it. I mean, I could be wrong, but you could probably skip it and you'll be all right. Now, the one after this one, folks, is the finale. We are done with the DCAMU. Justice League Dark Apocalypse War is the end of the DCAMU. I will be dropping that review very shortly here on the channel, and then we are done with our look back at the DCAMU films. What did you think about Wonder Woman Bloodlines? Let me know, and I'll talk to y'all in the next one.